Hey everyone, welcome back to Mountain Movers. I am your host, Amanda Montagna, where we are going to be teaching you how to turn your struggle into a springboard into the life that you truly desire and deserve. Today, we're going to be talking about financial stress with my dear friend, Christine Spiak. She teaches people how to replace financial stress with intentional living through her business, Compass Financial Wellness, and through Success Circle. Mohawk Valley Women's Community. Sorry, there are so many words. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to get your opinions and input on finances.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
I'm
of
excited
course.
to be here.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into this world of financial stress,
I will. It came from my own financial stress.
which makes it personal?
Yes, very personal. So, my husband and I had been married for about 15 years and just always felt like we were robbing Peter to pay Paul. How can we do better? Wanting to have more of a foundation, meaning more of like savings in the bank for like those emergency times, and just never really feeling like we got to where we wanted to be until we learned how to create healthy habits with our money. And once I did that, I started helping family and friends. We paid off all of our non mortgage debt. We built up a 6-month emergency fund, and then we started working on paying off our mortgage, which we did a 20-year mortgage we paid off in under 10 years.
That's amazing.
Thank you, because of this intentional living and the healthy habits we created with our money. So, because friends and family were seeing this and they were saying, wow, we want to get those results too. What are you doing? Tell us about it. I decided that I would become a money coach and I would help other people because oftentimes people are where they are because they don't know any other way. And you can't fix what you don't know, but once you know, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking a little bit beforehand that, I never was really taught how to manage money. So I was just kind of flying like blind. And it wasn't until I kind of sat down and started to learn some things that things got a little better. But I was doing some Googling and it was like, I think it said about 50% of all Americans have some sort of credit card debt, which is a crazy stat. It's actually way more than I originally thought. And it had me like thinking, is all debt truly bad debt, or do we just view credit card debt as bad debt?
I think that's a great question. And yes, there's good debt and there's bad debt. If you have a mortgage, you're building equity in a home, building up this real estate investment that you have. And on the flip side of that, there's consumer debt, right? So the credit cards. Credit cards are the most expensive form of debt because the interest rates are crazy. They can be on times on average around 29%.
Yes.
And if you're only making the minimum payments, you're never going to get them paid off. That interest just keeps growing and growing. And then it becomes very like suffocating. It's like, I don't even know how to get out of this. It's like I got into it, but now I'm trapped and I don't know what to do. And there's so many resources out there. There's podcasts, there's books, there's classes, there's so many different avenues you can go in when it comes to your money. It's like people get frozen because they don't know where to turn to first, what that first step they could take. So I know today we're going to leave your listeners with at least one action step they can take for
Yeah.
themselves.
I was in $20,000 of credit card debt before the age of 22, and my interest rates were anywhere from 25 to 30%. And the minimum payments are like $25. And that's how they get you. They make debt affordable, which is just awful.
Yes, it's very predatory in my opinion. Credit card companies have these offers that are whether it's points, miles, rewards, cash back. They make it sound so alluring, especially to young people, right? Like you were very young, you're just out of high school, you're just starting to work, and then it's like, "Oh, I could afford this with a credit card." But then you get in that trap and it's really hard to get out of it if you're not really intentional and diligent to do so.
How, in your opinion, like, how do you think we put ourselves in these positions of financial hardship?
That is such a great question. I'm so glad we get to talk about it because it really goes back to our childhood. So, as we're growing up, we already have within us if we're a natural saver or a natural spender. And people who are natural savers, like they can get to adulthood and do pretty good. Like that was me and my husband. Like we weren't struggling, but we wanted to do better. We wanted to have this healthy emergency fund and get our debt paid off. But the people who in childhood are natural spenders, right? It's really
Guilty?
well, it's really carefree because your parent or your guardian is meeting all your needs, right? They're putting a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your belly. So as you become an adult And now you're having to figure out, well, now I have to pay for the roof over my head and the food and the clothing and all the necessities in life, but I'm really used to paying for all the wants in my life. So to just cut those wants off is not something that happens for most people. Now, a lot of childhood spenders do mature, right? And mature out of that, but most don't. So when you take that natural innate, I'm a natural spender, and then you don't have the tools to learn how to manage your money, that's how that lifestyle creep happens. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Oh, yes, I
basically, the
am.
more you make, the more you spend,
Mhm.
right? And then it's like, okay, we're getting another raise in our household. Finally, we're going to be able to save some more money and money away. Nope, because then you just keep
You
spending.
upgrade the car and then you upgrade the house and you go
Exactly.
on a vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So those debts just become bigger and then it just becomes so overwhelming. How do I get out of them?
And I think another part of it is too, social media and the influence and chokehold that it has. I am guilty of it, to be honest. I'm scrolling and all of a sudden it's like there's an ad for this. Look at this makeup that like covers all your blemishes. And I go down this rabbit hole and the next thing I know, Amazon's been here 30 times this week. So I can totally see like the internet kind of putting people into these situations where they're spending really more than they should.
Yes, absolutely. And that's only one place. So it's the internet, it's our family, our friends, it's our email boxes, right? We get ads from different people. We walk into a store and we're being advertised to buy different things. It's everywhere we turn, we are being, and I call it predatory because retailers know people better than they know themselves. It's $1 billion industry to learn about the psychology of buying or of spending from their perspective. So they're like trapping us into spending money when we don't even realize we're doing it or how quickly we're doing it. And, if you think about Amazon, because you mentioned them, click and buy now. You have all of your details in there. It is so
So
easy
easy.
to click and buy now. One of my favorite tips I love to give, and this is not just like to hate on Amazon, it's any online company that you're spending money with, take your profile away. Take out your credit card, your debit card, whatever you're using,
It's like
because
severing a limb.
yes, because then when you're on the couch at night or you're in bed and you're doing that mindless scrolling, you actually would have to get up, walk to your purse, walk to your wallet, put in the 16 digits, put in the expiration date, put in the code on the back of the card. And then it's like, do I really want to get up and do all those things?
Yes, so that's so funny because that happened to me the other night. I was trying to buy something that I did not need, and for some reason this website didn't take Discover, and that's what's linked to my phone. So had to get up to go get my Visa, and I was like, not worth it. So I didn't end up buying it. So I think that's such great advice. It's just taking the courage to do it,
Yes.
removing your card. So, all right, let's move on to, we'll paint a scenario here. I'm in a financial crisis. I've overspent and now I'm really trying to clean up my life. And I'm trying to decide if it's better to pay off my debt or to start creating a savings. In which direction would you suggest I go?
Asking that question in that way is exactly the types of things that people ask me because they see it as an either or. And I like to see it as a both. What happens with a lot of people is they look at their money in silos, right? So they look at, I make this much money, my expenses are this much, my debt is this much, and my savings is this much. So they look at it in four different silos. Together, when I work with my clients, we put it all together. And it's like a puzzle piece that we have to look at all of the things together because if we take all of our money that we have that's not going towards our needs, our fixed costs, then and we throw it at our debt, then we're not saving at the same time. So what happens to many, many people is they'll get themselves out of their credit card debt, they'll feel good, they'll finally exhale and feel like, okay, I could breathe again. But then the dog needs to go to the vet and they don't have money set aside for that. Something happens with a household appliance. There's a car repair that needs to happen. And now they're getting themselves back in debt again. And then they're on that cycle and they just feel just as frustrated, just as discouraged. And now it's like it's just piling up all over again. And they don't know how to get out of it for good. So when you look at your money, all the income that you have coming in, after you pay all of your needs, right? The roof over your head, your car insurance, your car payment, all those types of things. And you look at, okay, what do I actually have left over? Like, what is that amount that I can attack debt with? Let's decide how much are we going to put on debt? And then how much are we going to also build in savings too? So we can cash flow problems or fund things when they happen and not just put them on a credit card.
So a little bit of both.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people would argue that they don't have enough money to do both. What would you suggest for that? If someone, so it's like almost when we talk about weight loss, we have a million excuses, right? And I think one of the excuses I made when, I was in a financial crisis was I just don't have enough money to do both.
Yep. So my tip for that is to go back and look at the last 3 months of your spending. So if you're doing it on a credit card, several credit cards, doing it with a checking account on a debit card, wherever you're spending your money, do a 3 month look back. Now, before you even start, give yourself some grace because there are going to be surprises as you do this. And this is not a time for you to beat yourself up and be like, why did I do that? Man, I can't believe how much money I spent on X, Y, or Z. This is just a data point. We want to gather information so we can have clarity on where our money has been going so we could choose where we want it to go. Now, when you're doing this look back, you're going to find that you're more often than not spending money on things that you didn't know. And a lot of times that's around subscriptions. So, for example, this has happened to a client of mine, and now it's happened to us. A client of mine was paying for SiriusXM and didn't even realize it. We recently bought a new to us car, so it wasn't a brand new car. And my husband's enjoying SiriusXM because somebody's paying for it, and it's certainly not us. So
Oh.
when you're doing this look back, you often find expenses things you've signed up for, and could be like that gym membership that you don't use. But
Hmm.
because you're on this autopilot of, I just pay for it every month, you don't even know really where all of your money is going. So once you do that look back and you have the clarity, the next step is to come up with, what are my priorities? What are my goals? Where do I want my money to go? And then you can start making those shifts by reducing your expenses and clearly outlining where that money is best going to serve you.
So I was going to ask you, and we kind of naturally segued into some action steps. So if somebody wants to start taking control of their financial relationship that they have, so number one, we talked about sitting down and going through the last 3 months of your spending habits to see where your money is going. Number two is allocating any extra money to both savings and to debt.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you would want to add to that?
Yeah, so that great question. Definitely consider your priorities because if you're not looking at that North Star, if you don't have a compass that you're aligning your actions, and in this case, we're talking about our spending actions with, then it is very easy to get derailed. So maybe for you, it's a down payment for a home or a really nice vacation you want to go on. Pick one, at least one thing, maybe one to three, depending on your lifestyle and what you're working towards, excuse me, but replace that impulse shopping when you want to do that with, no, wait a minute, I don't want to buy this right here in the moment because we're saving for a vacation or we're saving for a down payment for our house. So when we're connected to our why, beginning with the end in mind, what we really want in life, then those impulse purchases that we used to make, they're so easy to say no to because you're not saying no. You may be saying no to that, but you're saying yes to something
Something
else.
else. Yeah. And I just want to interject and say, and I'm biased here, but making your health a priority, I just think that should be in everyone's priority list. It should honestly be number one because being in healthcare and as a provider, I will say that if your health is not in check, cannot sometimes I see people they cannot work to make money to go on vacation or to pay off their mortgage early or they can't go and do fun things. So if your health isn't in order, I think you need to really sit down and prioritize that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, but spending some amount of money or more importantly, time on your health, I think needs to be added to everyone's checklist.
I think that's great, Amanda. One of the things that I do with my clients is they think they're just coming to me for, financial help, but really I help them holistically with their whole life. And one of my favorite activities to do with them that, any listener here can do, just Google Life Wheel, your life wheel, and you'll be presented with this activity that looks at different areas of your life. So it's spirituality, it's health, it's finances, it's vocational. So it's all these different areas of your life. And then as you're going through the activity, you're really finding out, okay, what's out of balance? Where am I spending too much time? So for a lot of people, that could be like, I am just working so much, I don't have time for my health, right? I don't have time for family or experiences or faith, right? Because I'm so much of my life is imbalanced to this one area. But my point being is that if you get connected with your why, with your values, with what's important to you, then your actions will follow. It's really hard to start taking action on something if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, and I think I love that the most about what you do because we were talking about this earlier too. Everything is like intertwined and works together. So this may sound overwhelming, but like you need to get it together in all aspects of your life to truly thrive because, we were talking about stress earlier. You can come to the chiropractor, for example, and you can get adjusted but you're still inflamed because your stress is out of control. As the chiropractor, I really can't go into your life and manage your stress for you. That's truly the point of mountain movers is we're trying to help and motivate individuals to take control of their own life because at the end of the day, no one is coming to save you. This is kind of a good point to talk about, how does financial stress actually make me better? And, I'll give you guys a personal experience. I mentioned that I was in $20,000 worth of credit card debt in my early 20s. And honestly, I'm using that as my advantage at this point because I know what it felt like to be drowning in credit card debt. And I know that stress. And that is honestly what fuels me and motivates me to never backtrack and have $20,000 worth of consumer debt again. So my struggle is like my superpower now. I know what it feels like. I'm not going to let it happen again. And this is kind of what I want to teach and motivate people to do.
Yes, absolutely. There is so much power and potential in removing and what we're talking about today, which is your financial stress, because that ripple effect, once you do that, look at where you are today. You may have started your early adulthood in debt, but as we were talking, you have this business, you have your chiropractic business, you have real estate, right? You have so much in your life because you were able to replace that financial stress with healthy habits and a healthy future.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think if I didn't go through that financial stress, I wouldn't have what I have today because I don't think I'd have that nagging feeling of fear of going backwards.
It's
So,
motivation too, though,
yeah,
right? So you could look at it, either head of the coin, right? So like you're motivated to keep doing well because you don't want to be back in that position that
correct.
you were in. And you were able to get yourself out of it. And so that's where we talk about the power and potential. Once you're out of it, it just feels so good. And that ripple effect in the rest of your life is so positive. People are able to leave toxic work environments. In my case, my husband and I, we don't fight about money anymore, right? Like the arguments that we once had, we don't have them anymore. We're on the same page. We create goals together every year. What is this year short term going to look like? What are we working on long term? And because we're on the same page, that enriches our marriage and our
Yeah.
relationship together. And then there's a ripple effect from that.
Yeah, so speaking of ripple effects and businesses, if we're having financial stress personally, and say we have someone listening who wants to open a business or has a business, can you talk a little bit about how the personal and the business tend to reflect each other?
Yes, absolutely. And so I learned how to create these healthy habits with our personal finances. And then 6 years ago, when I started my business, I just assumed I knew what I would be doing with business finances. And I didn't. And it took me learning a new system. It's called Profit First. But because I follow that system, and that's the system I teach in my other business that I co own, which is Success Circle, entrepreneurs are able to learn how to manage the cash flow in their business. So the money that's flowing in and flowing out, instead of feeling like you're just always shooting from the hip, robbing Peter to pay Paul, dipping into business finances to cover a personal expense, or taking personal money to reinvest into the business, there are strategies that we teach that really help set you up for success in both business and personal.
Speaking of Success Circle, can you tell me a little bit about that and our listeners on how they could get involved?
Yep. So it's for women right here in the Mohawk Valley. And we started it because of the struggles that we had in our own business and a gap that we were seeing here locally. So when I first started my business and I hired a coach, she was out of Wisconsin. Wonderful woman, great relationship. When I joined a mastermind, it was out of Arizona and it was international. Met a lot of great people. But I was looking for a community here in the Mohawk Valley, which is how I met Amanda back 6 years ago with the Mohawk Valley with Businesswomen's Network, because I'm looking for who can my colleagues be locally? Who can I go to for advice on my business? And I just always felt alone and isolated in the early years of my business. And then when I met my business partner, really, we just started talking about how about we share office space together? She's a leadership coach, I'm a money coach. We coach clients, we hold workshops, but the more we talked, the more we realized that there's a need for what we were also looking for. So we created Success Circle. We meet the fourth Friday of every month for coffee connections, and that's for any woman in our region to just come and grow in community. We hold monthly workshops, and then we have our accelerator membership, which is for that woman entrepreneur locally in the Mohawk Valley to get support, to have accountability, to learn how to manage the cash flow, to learn how to be a strategic business owner. Those are the concepts that we teach.
I love that. The idea of community when you're, especially if you're first starting out in business, is so important. I remember before I even owned my chiropractic office, I was part of the Women's Business Network, and initially I felt very intimidated. You're in a room of women who own these businesses for years, and you're like, oh my God, how have they done this for so long? And, if they've stayed profitable and successful. But after a while, I wasn't afraid of the women in the room. I was inspired by them. And it's kind of, helped me push through like, wow, all of these women have such great businesses. I can do this too. And I think community is so important. So if you're a woman in business and you're feeling, isolated, alone, like you don't really have any resources or a community, I really think you should check out Success Circle. They're locally, so
Thank
I think
you.
that's important.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
come play in our sandbox. Even if you're thinking about starting a business one day, just come play, come meet our members.
Yeah, you truly have nothing to lose. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I think this was a super important topic. It's personal to me, and I feel like I've learned quite a bit from you just speaking to you today. So I
Thank
appreciate your
you.
time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I will link how to reach Christine at Success Circle right at the end of this video, and make sure to tune in for our next episode.